Welcome to the Kitsap Sun Editorial Board. We're talking to the candidates for Kitsap County Commissioner. And Greg, as the incumbent, we'll let you start us off and take 2 minutes and introduce yourself.
Okay. My name is Greg Sandstrom. I'm the Kitsap County Coroner. I was born and raised right here in Kitsap County. Went to South Kitsap High School, and I graduated back in 1970. And went to Olympic College, where I took police science. I graduated with a police science degree, and right after graduation, I went right into the Washington State Patrol, where I was a trooper for 13 years. During the time I was a trooper, I was also an EMT. We were EMT trained at that time. I left the State Patrol to go on mission work, where I went with Youth with Mission, or YWAM. Went overseas missions to Southeast Asia. Went in China, Philippines, Hong Kong, and Japan. Came back here, and then I was at local churches. I was a social pastor, and then also was in the chaplain program with South Kitsap Fire and Rescue for 5 years. After 5 years, I decided to do something different, and the job of deputy coroner came up, so I applied for it. They thought I was a good fit, so did I. I worked for 5 years as a full-time deputy coroner under Ted Zink until he retired, and then he encouraged me to run for this position, which I did, and 16 years later, here as the coroner. That kind of brings me up to date.
Jeff.
Hi, I'm Jeff Wallis. I live in Silverdale with my family. I'm a firefighter paramedic with Central Kitsap Fire and Rescue. I've been with them for almost 11 years now. I was born and raised in Eastern Washington, running a family sawmill, mostly with my dad. I got married. I was working as a paramedic firefighter and a fire chief in Eastern Washington. I also spent 10 years as a deputy coroner in Eastern Washington. I was the fire chief of our fire district for 7 years. I was a special deputy with the Sheriff's Department there as well for 6 years. I've seen all aspects of public safety, and I initially started out in pre-med, and my father had a stroke while I was in school. I still had 2 sisters that were in high school, so it necessitated a move back home, and that was what got me furthered on in my fire service career. I'd already been a volunteer with the local hometown fire department, and I saw the opportunity there to go to paramedic school, so I went to the University of Iowa and completed their paramedic training, and I was the sole paramedic covering 750 square miles of extreme northeast Washington by myself, along with the other hats that I was wearing in the community. After I got married and started having children, career move was necessitated, and that brought me to Kitsap County, where I was hired by Central Kitsap. I have since finished my bachelor's degree in public safety administration, a master's degree in leadership with focus on executive fire service leadership and disaster management. I've been through numerous FEMA courses on disaster management, leadership, personnel management, and several FEMA courses on health and safety.
All right, well, thanks for the background. I'm going to ask a real general question, Jeff.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to run for this? Why do you think, you have a background in fire or paramedic, those sorts of things. This job is slightly different than that, but why do you want to do this?
Greg hired me as extra help about 20 months ago now, and there's a fantastic opportunity within the confines of the office right now to make it much more interactive as a resource as well as a service provider within the community. With the resources that we have, there are great areas that we can go into in helping to serve our families, not only when a tragedy strikes, but also to help with pre-planning and other informational needs before that happens. It also gives us an opportunity to more fully interact with other service providers in the county, such as hospice, to help streamline the course of care for the passing of a loved one.
Explain a little bit more what you mean by that, whether it's pre-planning, pre-planning.
Pre-planning.
Yeah, tell me exactly
Sure.
what you would like to see the agency do.
I would like to see the agency go to paperless reporting. The infrastructure is already in place for that, so it wouldn't require any expenditure on the department's part other than getting the actual program, which costs $3,100 a year. That could allow us to go paperless, and it allows us to interface with medical practitioners in the area, law enforcement agencies. We'd be completing our own reports still, but that'd be done in the field at the time of happening. So the accuracy rate actually improves, and it allows outside agencies to interface to that with read-only. So there's no back and forth faxing, mailing. They can see the report that's pertinent to them as it's updated, as it's completed. And there'd be direct entry through other agencies such as State Patrol Tox Lab, our pathology firm. So like with hospice, if they have a patient that's coming into the system, they could interface with our office more seamlessly. We would have those resources available to them so that they could present those to the family, so that when the passing of that loved one actually does come, the phone call comes, most of the information can already be entered into the system.
It's kind of an operational thing, working with other other agencies. Greg, is that something that you're also looking to do? Is there a reason we're holding back on doing that?
Well, actually, I'm legislative chair on the Washington Association of Coroners and Medical Examiners, and we are working on a program that will actually be statewide. It's through a company, I believe they're out of California, but it will. And we've been working on this for about 10 years with the toxicology lab. So far, they have not been able to do anything online or haven't married up with anything that would allow us to do that. So we're trying to get this into the governor's budget. We tried last year, it didn't make it. We're trying again this year for that. We do have a computerized program where we can be paperless. The only reason we create a paper is because we don't fax it or send anything over the internet, because we know the problems that are created, such as, just for instance, the cloud with the pictures of naked stars, those kind of things, and the problems they had over in Pierce County. We don't want those things to happen. So we're being very cautious. We're taking little steps at a time, trying to make sure that doesn't become a problem.
How much would the statewide effort cost? I mean, Jeff's citing a number that's fairly reasonable.
Actually, it's fairly reasonable because, matter of fact, Pierce County right now is trying to set up their own to provide statewide. So far, they spent $350,000. They haven't completed it. The program that's already set up, that is can be statewide, it will cost the state about $120,000, and that will also provide iPads for the people out in the field to complete their program.
$120,000 per county?
No, the
That would be
state.
your
That's
cost?
statewide.
The state would do that?
Statewide,
And that would move everyone in the state to an electronics record system?
Correct.
Okay. Is there capacity in kind of your, I guess, IT staff, whoever was going to do the job, in the office right now to handle something like that?
Well, that would be handled through that company.
You outsource all of that sort of work?
They would be the controller of the product, I should say, not the information, but the product. But the information would stay within our office.
Okay. I'm going to ask you the same question I started with Jeff. Why are you running for this office again?
Well, because my accomplishments in this office and things I want to get to accomplish ahead of time. If you don't mind, I just brag a little bit about what I've done in the past and things I want to continue to do, as well as some things I'd like to see happen. For instance, last year I started a Cribs for Kids program it's a national program through Pennsylvania. And what we do is I go around to different organizations such as Kiwanis and Rotary and places like that, who I show them the vision for the cribs, and then they actually give money. I've raised over $6,000 for cribs now. We've given away about 150 cribs through KCR, through the tribes, and through Harrison Hospital, as well as PCAP, to families that cannot afford a crib. And that has actually cut our crib deaths by well over 2/3. So it really is working. The other thing we do is I work with MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and excuse me. The things we do with them is mock crashes in all the high schools. We also have an every 15 minutes program where we go to the high schools. I usually speak at those. We also put on a mock crash to where there's fire department, police departments, people involved, and as well as the students who dress up like the casualties. Also work with indigent burials, something I've set up after I took office the first time. We had several different cremated remains sitting on shelves, about 25 or 30 of them. And the only ordinance we had in the state, the county, was to sprinkle them on the county parks. That was their ordinance, and I contacted the park department. Of course, they wanted nothing to do with that. So what we did is we put it out in the paper, and a lady by the name of Sue Brown came forward and provided free to us a very large plot in Old Silverdale Cemetery. So we started holding services about every 3 years for these people. Along with that, we separate, and Leif has been involved with this, that we have veterans. We find out who the veterans are, and every year we hold an unforgotten ceremony just for the veterans that involves hundreds of motorcyclists, especially with the Patriot Guard and those, and we escort them, after a very nice service, we escort them to Mount Tahoma. Some of the things I'm involved with is Compassionate Friends. I'm on their advisory board, and I'm also on the suicide prevention program with the League of Women Voters. I also speak to our whole office does, but I also do too, speak to different Navy personnel whenever a new ship comes in, all the subs, about DUI prevention. So we're very involved with the community. I'd like to stay involved. Some of the things I'd like to do, even beyond this, is we're looking at starting a reserve program. One of the problems is that people come to us looking for work or a job, and they have no experience. So we'd like to be able to provide this at no charge to them or to the county, because they'd be coming in and learning under deputy coroner and spending time with them. The other thing I want to do is, after I've, one of the other things I've did recently is I got funding for and was involved with the design of a state-of-the-art facility. So the coroner's office is probably one of the best, if not the best, coroner's office in the state right now. We went from a broken down Volkswagen to a really nice Cadillac, basically. And we're trying to get recognition from the International Association of Coroners and Medical Examiners and get it acquire national certification. And because the NIJ, the National Institute of Justice, is looking towards regionalization of coroner's offices, and they're only looking at ones that are regionally certified.
What does that mean?
Well, it's just that we have to pass a whole bunch of different categories, such as make sure our office has the right equipment. We do have an X-ray, which I do have an X-ray machine because I applied for and wrote a grant to get an X-ray machine in this building. And then we have to make sure our policies and manuals are everything up to date. Make sure we use a board-certified forensic pathologist, which we do. So those kind of things are steps that we have to move into. Plus, it's a little expensive. It's about $3,500. I've actually put that, I've already talked to the budget people, putting that in our budget for next year. And one other thing is that we also regionalize with Mason County. They bring their bodies up to us, and we do the autopsies for them, and we want to expand that into the other surrounding counties and the Olympic Peninsula.
I'm going to say, just in the interest of disclosure, I've been asked to join the board of the Compassionate Friends also, so
right.
Greg and I see each other, what is it, every 3 months or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
But it's not a big community.
And I'd like to answer to that,
Yeah.
if I could. I think having those interactions with the community are very integral and a very key part to that office. I think we need to go one step further and make sure that the people that are receiving the services and the resources of the coroner's office know about them. We, by databasing and making all of our resources put together truly in one spot, we're actually able to provide for all the needs of our families, which is something that we're missing a key component of right now. We do have, a listing of the area funeral homes. However, when it comes to listings of area clergy, area support groups, area medical practitioners for that matter, we don't have that information at our fingertips. And with today's technology, that's very easy to do. And again, if we go to the paperless reporting system, that would all be integrated into that as well, and would help speed the process and the accuracy of completing death investigation reports. And the Cribs for Kids program, I think, is fantastic. 2008 was a horrible year for child deaths. I was involved with several of those with my other job. And anytime the death of a child occurs, it is tragic for everybody. It has an extreme emotional impact on the family, on the responders, and the community at large. And I want to commend Greg for the Cribs for Kids program. I think it's great, and I compare it to the fire alarm program, the smoke detector program that the fire department does. We need to take that program one step further. We need to make sure that those cribs are at the point of use, at the hospitals, with the housewives, with the midwives, and the doulas of the county that can provide the training and identify the need with those, as well as when we are doing death investigations, actually ensuring was there a crib present, whether or not the child was in it, and making sure that we are getting hard, solid numbers to ensure that what we are doing is in fact making a difference. And that will take that program to the next level.
What, let me ask you, you told us about your paramedic experience, fire experience, and then some experience in the coroner's office. It seems like a big part of this job, but is also managing an office, leading some of these efforts, like what you're talking about right now, is getting out into the community. What is in your personal background that says, I'm a guy who can do this kind of stuff, I can manage this kind of a budget, I can run an office, that sort of thing? Do you have that?
I was a small business owner with my family. And
what was the business?
Running a sawmill. Yep. And I was a fire chief for 7 years in Eastern Washington, and we actually increased our budget through outside of the box thinking and creating partnerships with non-traditional partners, especially in providing emergency service. Seattle City Light has a huge hydroelectric project that supplies about 1/3 of the city of Seattle's power up there. Yet they weren't providing any income to the fire district through taxing for operations. They were a huge impact on our service. So we were able to go outside the box, create those partnerships, get that income coming in. That helped to provide paramedic services that are still there today. It's helped to update equipment, improve staffing. I was managing volunteers who you can't say you have to come in and work today, and we were still providing 24/7 coverage.
And also,
how big was your budget?
$500,000.
I did want to ask, you said you've been working for 20 months with the coroner's office. Explain
Extra help.
What's your role?
I am a deputy coroner, but I'm extra help. I fill in when they don't have coverage through regular personnel,
Okay.
or full-time personnel.
Okay. And then maybe a similar question for Greg. You've been doing this job for a while. What do you do? What have you done to maybe expand your own skills? What would you like to work on? What do you think you've grown as a person in that role?
Tremendous amount of different things that I've grown in. One thing is, of course, the budget. Through the lean years, through the recession, we were cut up to 10% of our budget, which when you have the smallest budget in the county government, it is really tough to cover 24/7, but we managed it. Matter of fact, we even got so inventive that we started doing our own cleaning. We did our own landscaping in our building. We just got in our building, so you put a lot of pressure on us to do that. The other things, I've done a lot of training, not only receiving training, but giving training. I do a lot of training for the mass fatality training to other entities. I've taught throughout the state. I've also taught in Department of Emergency Management for Clallam and Jefferson counties, as well as for the state. I also teach at the basic death investigation class for the Washington Association of Coroners and Medical Examiners. But I've received just numerous number of trainings, such as underwater death investigation, fire deaths, baby deaths, just a whole gamut of information that I've received. And because of that training, I can bring that back to the office and help train the deputies.
What are the skills you would say to a voter? Here's why I'm a better coroner than I was a couple of years ago. What are the specific things that people would notice?
Well, I think just a couple of different things. One is just my experience of dealing with the budget and trying to find pennies out of dollars in making the operation complete. but also because of my involvement with the community. I've gotten more and more involved as years go on, and I'm finding that that is a huge help to us. I've mentioned the Cribs for Kids program because that has actually made an impact on deaths. And let's say we work with the hospital, social people at the hospital. We work with KCR, which are tremendous. But we're also trying to get a program going for suicide prevention because, unfortunately, Kitsap County has a very high suicide rate. The national average is about 12 per 100,000. Kitsap County is anywhere between 17 to 20 per 100,000 many years. So I'm working with the League of Women Voters on the suicide prevention program, and we're trying to get information not only to the schools but also to Rotaries and Kiwanis and places like that, because believe it or not, the biggest problem is not young people, it's people that are in their 40s to their 60s. That by far the largest number of suicides is males between those ages.
How do you handle the same issue? We're reaching out, new programs, getting to know the community. What are the strategies that you have? What are the skills that you think you have personally to make you a good person to do that?
I'm personally interactive with the community already. We're in a great position to trust with the fire department. People call us during their darkest hour, and they trust that we are going to bring the knowledge, the compassion, the caring, and the expertise to take care of the job. I'm also involved with our son's Pee Wee League in Silverdale. We're members of the PTA with Emerald Heights Elementary. I'm involved in the fire department's Honor Guard, which participates in many community events. And I'm also active with the fire department union that also is active in many community events. I'd also like to talk a little bit about the coroner's office budget if I could. The last year has seen 2 people out on light duty. It's caused a massive overtime crunch on the budget. The office has just put in for more money for overtime, and I believe the commissioners actually authorized hiring a new full-time person for the office. It's crisis management, with all due respect to Greg. We do have the ability within the office and the personnel that we have to modify the scheduling of our on-call personnel and also modify the usage of those personnel to cover the traditionally busy hours, which are normally between 6 a.m. and 2 a.m., and leaving those 4 hours in the middle time where we receive about 1% of our calls with someone on call, which costs $15 as compared to paying someone $30, give or take, an hour to be in the office. So by modifying that schedule, we can provide the service in the most needed times, and we can also double staff the office during the traditionally busy times, which are the daytime, Monday to Wednesday.
Greg, is that true that the overtime costs have been increasing?
It has been increasing. We do have 2 injured people, but those injuries occurred. One was just before noon, the other one was 7 o'clock in the evening when we started to shift at 4. So it's during those peak times that they were injured. The staff and I, as well as the union and personnel, as well as risk management, got together a few years ago and tried to figure out exactly what a perfect schedule would be, or the best schedule would be. And overwhelmingly, it was the schedule we have now. They were 3 days on, 4 days off, which is a 12-hour, 12-hour, and 16-hour shift. It helps reduce the overtime, other than the injuries that occurred that we have to use extra help, as well as some more overtime for that.
What was the overtime budget like before the injuries occurred?
It was about $25,000, and we had to increase that some because of the injuries this year. But the other problem is that it's a proven fact that it takes 5.5 people to work a 24/7 operation. We've only had 5 full-time deputies for as long as I've been there. We finally just got approved, as Jeff mentioned, for a 6th person, which is going to alleviate a lot of this.
Is 6 people the right number as far as you're concerned? Or
For 24/7 coverage?
yeah.
To totally maximize it, you need about 9 people.
Oh.
However, I don't think it's feasible, effective, or necessary to have someone actually physically in that office 24/7. we do have that 4-hour gap in there every day where we traditionally do not receive calls. They're very few. I'm not going to say we don't get any, but there are few. So by going to 4 10-hour shifts, we're actually providing the bulk of the coverage that also frees up one person to work a traditional 9 to 5 shift 5 days a week so that they can be specialists in veterans benefits, helping us build our databases on area medical practitioners and keep those accurate, support groups, clergy, and they can also be a backup for answering the phones and backup for field personnel when they're doing investigations. And then that 4-hour gap in the middle can be covered by either someone being on call, which costs $15, or by your elected official taking the call for those 4 hours.
And that scenario, kind of the schedule that you proposed, that's a 5-person office or a 6-person office?
That's a 5-person
So
office.
5.
I think we would be much more effective in having 2 part-time personnel rather than 1 more full-time person.
The question of staffing, this is a lot broader than the specifics. When do you think Kitsap County is now at a place where it could potentially become a medical examiner rather than a coroner system? What's your outlook on whether the county should do that, should start thinking about that? Do you think that is going to happen?
I think it will eventually happen. That's why he's going to build the facility the way it is, because it can be put into it as a medical examiner system. The problem being is that it costs so much to go to a medical examiner system that I've done a survey.
Because of the pay involved for a
The
doctor.
pay involved, yes. You have a forensic pathologist who is on staff, plus you have to have somebody that covers him or her when she's gone, plus your assistants and your clerical staff. I've done a study with all the other counties that did go to a medical examiner system, which there are 6. There's King, Pierce, Snohomish, Spokane, Clark, and Whatcom County. And all those waited until they at least got 400,000 people in the community. The state law says 250,000, but they all waited because the tax base would support it. It was also had to come to a vote of the people, and all of those counties are also home rule counties.
And so is 400,000 a number that you think is?
I think that's, yeah,
more
anywhere between 350 to 400 probably be a good
It's a better
amount.
indicator.
Right.
Jeff, do you think?
I completely agree. I think that the system that we have right now for forensic pathology services is one of the best places that office is spending money right now. We actually
The way we currently operate.
The way we currently operate with under that system, I don't think you can beat it. We've got 2 pathologists and their staff for less than what Pierce County is starting their forensic pathologist at. And I agree that 400,000 also
It's
is
kind of a good
round number where the tax base will equal out with the cost increase of going to a
and
medical
the
examiner
amount of
system.
work you would have to do, I'd imagine.
Correct.
Going up this one. Okay. You guys want?
Yeah, taxpayers, when you look at the different races and things going on, and coroner's office comes up, and I'll start with Jeff and this, but what's the purpose of the coroner's office? I mean, you know, to John Doe taxpayer that really hasn't had any interaction with you, what would you explain as the purpose of the coroner's office and your job in the coroner's office?
The purpose of the coroner's office by statute is determine cause and manner of death. And more than 60% of the deaths that occur are natural. All of us have an expiration date. The coroner's office steps in and assumes jurisdiction where there is question as to whether or not it was natural or it was obviously not natural. And then we get to determine whether or not it was homicide, suicide, accidental, traffic related, or undetermined. So that is, and the bigger part of the picture is outside the realm of the statute though. It's interacting with the family members that have experienced the loss of a loved one and making sure that they have not only the support but the roadmap that they need to get through that whole situation in a timely and effective and least impactful manner as possible.
Greg?
The same thing, the reason for our being is basically that to determine cause and manner of death. And what Jeff said is absolutely correct. We're here for the community. And that when you lose a loved one, it may be the first time in your life this ever happened. So we're there for you. One of the things we do is we have a pamphlet we give you that describes all the funeral homes in the area, that lets you know about bio-cleaning people, lets you know about compassionate friends, friends of suicide, or I'm sorry, suicide, I believe it's called forensic suicide, but anyway, there's a real resource guide that we would give you. Plus, we are the ones that do the next kin notifications. It's one of the things I teach in basic death investigation classes, how to properly deal with families, and that's a real important part of our job.
Just are the deputies unionized? Do they belong to
They are.
Which union do they belong to?
Ask me 1308.
Okay, so but it's not like they're part of the sheriff's guild or fire department's union.
No.
They have their separate. They have their own union.
Right.
You're both, we're not going to take a lot more time here. This isn't a real political position, I understand that. And obviously, since you work together, you guys have a relationship and some of the, hopefully a cordial race in the contest.
Yes.
But I am curious how you think how do you separate yourself from your opponent? What would you say to a voter? This is how I am different than, for you, the person who's doing the job, and this is how I'm different from the person who wants to take that job. Great.
Okay. The reason, you want me to just give you the reasons why I'm running? Is that what you're asking? Or
You
just
kind of
why
gave me
I'm
the reasons
running?
you wanted to run it before, but and I'm not asking to sling mud at each other here.
Oh, no,
but
no.
say,
No.
what is it different about me that my opponent would use?
I would say experience as the main thing. I was a full-time deputy coroner, like I say, for 5 years. I've been running the coroner's office for the last 16 as the elected coroner. My involvement in the community, I'm very involved in the community. I'm on call 24/7. Sometimes it feels like I'm never getting any sleep, but that's just the way, that's just part of the game. And that's just the way the job is. I would say mainly because of my experience. The other thing is that I interact a lot with other elected officials, and I have a good working relationship with commissioners. If you notice on my endorsement list, I have bipartisan support from people like Jan Angel, Derek Kilmer, Kim Wyman, Secretary of State, most of the coroners in the state back me, the Sheriff's Office Guild. There's funeral homes in the area that all think I should remain be coroner.
Jeff, how do you think you would do the job differently than it's being done right now that the voter could see?
I'd bring a fresh perspective to the office. Greg does have some great endorsements and great working relationships with elected officials throughout the county and actually throughout the state. I'm definitely willing to stipulate to that. And I also think that that has brought some clouded, typical political thinking to the way that the office is run. And we tend to get bogged down in minutia. And there are some things that can be done effectively to increase the efficiency and the interactability of the office with the public that is just a matter of doing it. Going to paperless reporting is one. We've got several other areas in the office. Our vehicles, we're through the rotating fund of the county. We're paying $5,200 a year apiece for our minivans. They're both 10 years old. So we've paid for them effectively twice. The staff car we've paid for almost 3 times. It's little things like this that, yes, it's going to take work, it's going to take time, and it's going to take convincing, but that is money that we can be putting into training. Our current training budget is 0. To have effective, interactive personnel that are up to date on everything that need to be up to date on to help families through and interact with other agencies and keep abreast of the proper procedures, knowledge, and techniques, they need to not only have access to training, but they need to be given that little push to go to it. And there is regional training. Seattle offers training, I believe, weekly, that's open to other coroners and medical examiners' offices. And by changing staffing around, all it's going to cost us is the bridge toll to get someone over there to go to the training and keep abreast.
How are you accomplishing training if there's no budget for it?
There is free training online, and we are encouraging people to go to that. We also have the WACME, Washington Association of Coroners and Medical Examiners, provides training, and also the CJTC, the
Criminal Justice.
Criminal Justice Training Commission, thank you, also provides free training.
Those are in-person meetings that your staff is able to go to?
Is there what?
Those are in-person meetings your staff is able to go to?
At our office?
No, the two that you just mentioned, the WAC and CJCC.
Right, they can, yes, there's training available there.
Okay. Are those meetings that they're able to attend, or they're taking those online?
Right, there are. As a matter of fact, I just sent Jeff to a full week-long training at basic death investigation class over at Leavenworth for a week, and everything was paid by the Washington Association of Coroners and Medical Examiners. The only thing we had to do was pay his salary.
Have state associations always taken care of those costs?
They have.
They have. So, like, historically, is there usually not money in the budget for training, or?
Well, there hasn't been since the recession, because we had to cut back. One of the things we had to cut back was the training. I'm starting to put the training money back in again.
Is it being proposed for next year's budget?
Yes, it is.
And you're starting that next year?
Yes.
How much money is being proposed?
We're starting out with $2,500 and we'll increase it from there.
Okay. Jeff, in your opinion, is $2,500, does that start to get at what you're saying?
Any place is a start.
Any place.
Okay, I'm not, I would love
You don't turn
to-
it away.
Never. But you should have, I figured that it would take about that much per employee per year in order to keep them truly updated and abreast of everything that's going on. We have some very specialized populations in this community, many of which are underserved. The veterans are huge. And the minutia of taking care of the family of a veteran that's passed is complex. And granted, the funeral homes are fairly well versed in helping families through that, but I think there's a larger role that we can play in helping families through that in the least impactful way.
Is there any worry that the state association would no longer pay for some of these things that they're offering right now?
No, we get our money. Actually, I'm part of the WAC and the legislative board. I was a past president of the organization. We get our money through legislature. It's actually through birth and death certificates as well as marriage certificates. We get a portion of that money that goes directly for our training.
Yeah, I just want to clarify in regards to training. Okay, the budget's been zeroed out for training, but whenever a deputy had to go to training, the deputy was always paid.
To go, yes.
Right, so the issue is if there's some kind of specialized training that's not offered free by all the organizations that do that, that's where you'd use the training dollars.
Correct, yes.
And are there things that have been missing over the last couple of years, in your opinion? Some of the specialized things that you aren't getting to teach people to do?
I think that I think the last couple of years there has been, it's slowed down because of the lack of money.
What types of things do you think that focus needs to be put on? You know, Jeff's talking about underserved populations. Where would you, if you could add something to that training agenda, what would be the top of the list?
Well, keeping up the basic skills, mainly, because, like I said, I sent Jeff to the basic death investigation class, but that's just the beginning. There's advanced homicide investigation classes that we could be going to. We don't have a lot of homicides in this county. I think 6 is the most we've ever had in 1 year. So we're focusing more on the natural deaths because like about 60 to 70% of our deaths are natural deaths. So we want to be able to determine what are the signs to determine this was a natural death before we bring them to the autopsy room. And the other one is of course, baby deaths. We want to try to prevent the onslaught of baby deaths. One of the things we determined, not just ourselves, but of course nationwide, is unsafe sleeping was a big problem. If we have 10 to 12 baby deaths in a year, 6 of those could be from unsafe sleeping. So this is one way we're curbing it, is providing the cribs, and it has made a huge impact. The other one is suicides, and I think that has more to do with mental health than anything, but whatever we can do to help identify the problems, the better.
What's an example of unsafe sleeping?
Unsafe sleeping is especially sleeping with parents, particularly during the waterbed era. People were actually rolling over on top of their babies or sleeping on the couch and just rolling over. It mainly involves a parent. Sometimes it's just sleeping in the corner with a pillow or with some dogs around. Some of the pillows and blankets as well as toys that they put around kids are actually suffocating. So the best thing to do is have in a crib, nothing on, no blankets, no toys, not even a bumper.
What are some ideas to reach the people that need to hear that message and take advantage of those programs? I mean, you're getting to a lot, it sounds like, but
Right.
there's always going to be someone else who needs to hear
Right,
that.
exactly.
When you think ahead and say, I'd really like to do this in the coming year, to find more of those people and talk to them, what are your strategies?
Well, working with the hospitals, because, I mean, most people, their children are born in the hospital, and getting that training to them. Through the Cribs for Kids program, we also have a pamphlet that we hand out with that, and we try to make sure the training goes to the hospitals as well, because they're the ones going to be training the parents on how to properly care for their child. I think that's helping a lot. I really do.
And they've been obviously partnering with you.
Yeah, we have been partnering with the hospitals. In fact, they've called me in for Cribs, and I brought them in. I've talked to different people at the hospital that deal with the children that says that they are given the right training.
Do you work with the other medical providers around group health, the ones who don't have a hospital, which is offices? Are there a relationship with those as well?
No, I'm pretty sure they have their own program as far as teaching safe
You're
sleeping.
only with Harrison.
We mainly deal with Harrison Hospital, yes.
Quick question, and some of the things it sounds like you do seem to me sort of part of the health department's venues. How well do you work with the health department, or do you work with them, or are you guys, just totally separate?
Oh, no.
Paralleling each other?
We do. We work with them quite often. Every month we have what's called a
Child death review.
Child death review, thank you. Child death review, where our chief deputy, Tony Stewart, goes and we review every child death under the age of 18. And we try to find out exactly what caused that death, what could have prevented that death. There's different people involved, so there's nurses, there's the CPS, there's the children doctors, there's people in the health department, a lot of different people involved in this, law enforcement, that we try to get to the bottom of these different deaths and how to prevent them in the future.
How do you think that relationship's working? Or is there anything you would do differently?
No, I just wanted to clarify a little bit for you on child deaths and co-sleeping. Children are very non-muscular, especially when they're really new, and they smother easily. And it's not always something rolling over them or onto them or them getting packed into a corner. It can be something as simple as them laying face down on their parent's chest that can suffocate them. So, and that's where we need to go the extra step with our Cribs for Kids program and find out, was there actually a crib available?
Oh, do you mean more of kind of an audit on this sort of thing?
Yes, we need to be. We do the same thing with every public safety program that we do, especially with prevention in the fire department. We continually audit everything that we do to make sure that we're not only getting the people the equipment that they need, but making sure that they're getting the information to use it appropriately. You read about it in the newspaper every day. They had smoke alarms in their house and they took the batteries out because that silly thing was annoying.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't put my baby in the crib because it hurts my back to get it in and out. So the baby slept on my chest. We need to know these things. We need to gather this information so that we can fine tune this. Getting the cribs is a great first step.
And you mentioned earlier one of the initiatives would be an online, getting a better presence there. That's what I was hearing from you earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of similar question to what I asked from Greg. What are the other ways that you reach some of these people that they're still not hearing the message or they don't know about what's being offered?
Get it out through the people that are having the first-hand contact with them. And traditionally, people in low income are having contact with social services, women, infants, and children, the fire department, law enforcement. Make sure that we are casting an extremely broad net to get this information out so that they not only have the equipment, but the knowledge to use it appropriately so we can actually accomplish the goal that we're setting out to accomplish.
Just to push on Roger's question a little bit, how do you feel about the relationship with the health department?
I think it's something that we need to maintain and build upon, and I think going paperless again is going to help them as well. There are questions that come up with death certificates, things like that, and having them be able to access the information that we have is appropriate and needed, and it helps cut down on confusion and communication problems.
Questions you guys want to ask?
No, my veterans question doesn't apply.
Your Bedouins question?
My
Veterans, he's been
Oh,
asking all the
veterans.
legislative
That's a
candidates.
it's a legislative
Yeah,
question.
we
I
don't
want
have the
to bring
political
out.
stuff for you guys. Well, let's conclude things then. I appreciate your time here.
I
but,
do want to touch
yeah,
just
we-
briefly on hiring.
Of course, we always give you a last. That was what I was going to invite
Okay.
you to. Anything else that we hadn't touched on yet? So we'll let Jeff go first, and then we'll let Greg finish.
There have been a few instances where the office has been blessed enough to be able to hire while I've been there. And I've watched the process with some great interest. One was a part-time hire, the other was a full-time hire, and now they're in the middle of another full-time hire. And traditionally, what I have experienced with other public safety entities is they keep an eligibility list. So, and it's valid for 1 to 2 years, depending on the agency and the rules and policies that they establish. So that when you do have a vacancy or an injury, it is a 2 to 4 week process to get that person who's next in line interviewed and on board. And I think that is something else through the office that would greatly improve the ability to keep staffing levels at the authorized level. And also with the reserve program, I believe something similar was tried back around the early 2000s, and it requires a massive amount of oversight and management. It ended poorly. There were a lot of hurt feelings, and I believe there was even a lawsuit or two.
This is the kind of an apprenticeship type thing. Is that what it is?
It was your program.
You mentioned something about this earlier, even that you'd like to do.
Right, and yes, we did try it in 2002, and it was successful at the beginning, but the particular person who was running that was having particular problems, and the lawsuit had nothing to do with the reserve program. It had to do with this particular individual who I finally had to fire. We put it on hold, and because of the recession and different things that came up, we decided to wait on even trying it again. Now we're going to do it a little bit differently. We're going to have less people there, or less reserves, and do a little more on-hand training with the deputies. So it'd be just a little bit different program. So we're willing to try that again.
Is this something that has been started, or it's something still kind of on the horizon?
I'm sorry?
There is no program right now.
Right now, no, there's
Correct.
not, no. Right.
How long, to answer Jeff's question about the filling a vacancy, or I guess this was a...
We do have a list with personnel. We work through personnel.
How long did it take this summer with those injuries you had
How long did it take, what?
to find a replacement?
Oh, we kept them on as extra help. I'm sorry, as
Light duty.
light duty, and we have extra help come in and fill for them, as well as the other deputies, as well as Chief Deputy and myself covering some of the shifts. So we were able to handle it, but eventually we have to either have them get well or replace them with full-time people. But we do have a list of people that we can interview and eligible to be hired.
Is it in the formal sense of what Jeff is suggesting?
Is that we already have people interviewed and ready to go?
Yeah.
Well, the problem there is that these people, if they are qualified to be deputy coroners, they usually, by the time we get to them, they've found other employment. So we have to keep the list updated to make sure that they're still available to us.
So there is not a list kept, other than just kind of...
Other than a
informal-
personnel, yes, they have a list of applicants.
There's a personnel file that you can always go back to, but you're suggesting something different than that.
Right. I'm suggesting a formalized eligibility list that is ranked
Straight to the top, until we start calling.
straight to the top, make the phone calls, make it happen.
And you're saying those people typically are gone by the time...
Those people usually, we found is if we don't hire them, they're hired someplace else almost right away if they have the qualifications that we're looking for.
Okay. Well, that was what I wanted to do, give you one last chance.
Okay.
If there were any issues that you wanted to bring up, and then we'll offer the same to Greg in conclusion, if there's anything you'd like to leave us with, anything we had.
Well,
we had
just
touched on.
say my involvement not only in the community but also statewide and also on the Forensic Investigation Council, which oversees the Washington State Patrol Crime Lab and Toxicology Lab, which I'm the vice chair of. That's appointed by the governor. I've been in that for 8 years now, 8 or 9 years, can't remember. And then the other things that I'm involved with that I've already mentioned that I want to expand on, such as suicide prevention program, because that's paramount right now, and continue with the Cribs for Kids program. And some of the ideas Jeff brought up were absolutely right, that it's a good idea to get that message out even to more people, because even one death is too many. And also because of the support I received in the community because of the jobs I've been doing from other, not just Republicans, but Democrats, and all these individuals that, as you see, have endorsed me because they want to see the programs continue and see the involvement the coroner's office has had in the community.
All right.
I would like to pose one question.
Go ahead.
It's been brought up several times in the past. I've read through several past interviews that Greg has mentioned several times that he doesn't feel that the office should be partisan. And that's been brought up by several elected officials in the county. And I firmly believe that this office should not be partisan, to the point that I stood behind it and didn't declare a party. And I want to know where Greg sits on that, why he's continually made that statement but still sticks with the Republican Party.
The Sheriff's Department actually brought it up to the legislature here a couple of years ago to try to get it nonpartisan, and we were following the shirt tails of them from the coroner's perspective, and all of us in the state as coroners would like to see it nonpartisan, but it is. So we had to choose a party, which I did, but it doesn't seem to make any difference to a Democrat then to me that this is a partisan position. It's the right person for the job.
Yeah, we've asked the same question. I was going to. It is kind of interesting.
Right.
Why we have to do
State law. That's all I can tell you.
So you've chosen. You prefer no party.
I prefer no party. I prefer to serve the citizens of the community.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate your
Thank
time.
you.
Good luck.